United are now in a groove. We're in the groove, people. We're absolutely just going into games and we're doing whatever is physically possible to just go, we're going to win that game. We're going to win that game. We're going to win that game. There were so many different obstacles last night. There were so many different parts of that game where I thought, the first one being going 1-0 up. I thought we got a little bit complacent. I think we took our foot off the gas. I think that's the best way of putting it. It's really, really important, of course. COVID and the health of people is 100% priority, but this is why we love football. This is why we support this game. This is why it's so important and so we are so grateful really that we're still able to watch football. That's going a little bit. I apologise for that. I'm not ill. It's just that let's just say I got a bit excited yesterday when those goals went in. A 90+3 winner from Mide Shadipo. In fact, all the goals, other than obviously all the Oxford United goals, I was absolutely just absolutely ecstatic with them. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. What an incredible game of football I have just witnessed. Absolutely incredible. Like the 7-goal thriller, an absolutely incredible game. We're going to be digesting it, we're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be reacting to it. It's a match reaction, it's a match review for Rochdale United's 4-3 win. 6-game unbeaten, but also 6 games on the trot, winning in the league. Absolutely fantastic, and yeah, incredible. Before we crack straight on with this episode of the podcast, this is not a live episode of the podcast, this is an exclusive episode of the podcast. It is just a normal episode of the podcast on the YouTube channel. It's not live, so if you're watching this right now, if you could leave a like on this episode of the podcast, that will be incredible. If you could subscribe as well, if you're not already. I think 88% of the people that watch my content here on the Young Fan Podcast aren't subscribed. First of all, what are you doing? And I really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. And we're on 136 subscribers, I think, as we speak. If we can get that to, I don't know, 140, is that stretching it too much? Maybe 138 subscribers, just 2 of you that watch the content that aren't subscribed. If you could subscribe, that would be absolutely incredible. But an incredible game of football we have just watched. 4-3 to Oxford United against Rochdale. An incredible game of football. Absolutely, it's just baffling, absolutely baffling. And I've just got to say one thing before I crack on. I said that I would mention it, but someone, if you don't follow the Instagram page of the podcast as well, we'll do that as well, where I do sort of live updates sort of through the games. I've got to give my thoughts before I do a podcast episode. My voice is going a little bit. I apologise for that. I'm not ill. It's just that let's just say I got a bit excited yesterday when those goals went in. A 90+3 winner from Mide Shadipo. In fact, all the goals, other than obviously all the Oxford United goals, I was absolutely, just absolutely ecstatic with the goals. There were some fantastic goals in there, so I do apologise for that. Now, what I will say also before I carry on as well, if you're sort of considering subscribing, that sort of thing, this isn't just an Oxford United fan channel. It's not an Oxford United fan channel, really. It's just I'm a supporter of Oxford United. I'm a fan of Oxford United. I like doing match reactions. I do that on the podcast. I like doing sort of other bits surrounding Oxford United there and there as well. But I am working on a very interesting episode of the podcast. It'll be coming very soon. I promise you of that. Where I look statistically into every single team in League One. Pick out their best players. Pick out the best players in the position. Look at the whole league. Who are the best players in those different positions in League One so far on statistics. So that's very interesting. I will be bringing that out as well. If you're wondering, should I subscribe, should I not subscribe? I'm not an Oxford United fan, so I'm not going to. You're wrong, people. I don't just do Oxford United content. I'm looking forward to do lots of other content down the line as well. I've already done some England content recently as well. I am looking to get back into doing some other things as well surrounding the Premier League, things like that. But I am going to look at statistically, be looking at other things in League One. But without further ado, let's crack straight on with this episode of the podcast. And what I was going to say as well, before I sort of got sidetracked into explaining that sort of thing. What I would say is someone DM'd me on the Instagram last night. I am recording this the morning after of the game. And someone DM'd me saying this is why football has got to continue during this time, because the entertainment, the passion, the excitement that it sort of that gives to the fans during these very difficult times, it is just so important. And I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. It is so important. And obviously, I understand we've also got to be very careful with sort of like how we sort of word these sort of things, because I understand the pandemic, the situation that we're going through right now is extremely serious. At the moment, it's sort of, you want to say it's improving, but if you're being frankly and completely honest, it's not really going the way that we want it to go in that right direction. And sort of moving the way, I mean, the vaccine sort of thing, I don't want to get too into it. I mean, we are sort of like slowly but surely sort of progressing in terms of the vaccine, but in terms of numbers and deaths and all those sort of things, unfortunately, things aren't really getting too much better very, very quickly. They're getting better, but not at the pace that we would like them to. And obviously, I have got to be very, very careful how I word this because I don't really want to come across insensitive, because I think what is most important, and I've stayed very, very consistent to this, is that lives and COVID and the safety of others and the health and safety, should I say, of what this pandemic is causing fans and just causing general people in football and outside of football, of course, as well, that is priority. It always will be. That's priority, and the entertainment, football, all those sort of things definitely come second, 100%. There's no doubt about that. It's not even a close second either. It's health, and then there's a big gap, and then it's entertainment. And it's absolutely fantastic that football is continuing. But last night, that game, that 7-goal thriller against Rochdale for Rochdale United, that was the reason, I think, why I think a lot of people, and I don't, again, want to come too soppy. I don't want to come across too sort of like, oh, here he goes, sort of whinging and moaning about this is why we love football and all sort of thing. I don't want it to come across like that, because a lot of people are going to do that. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I don't really want to come across like that. But I think the reason why, and I'll come on to it as well, again, I don't really want to discuss too much in terms of mental health and that sort of thing as well, but generally a lot of people's mental health and lots of other people that enjoy football and enjoy all those sort of different things, that enjoy entertainment, enjoy that excitement, which is probably the majority of people, maybe just not in football, but specifically in football I'm talking about here. Watching and getting excited and looking forward to a game during these very, very difficult times for many people, that is what is really sort of keeping us going in that sense. Really sort of making us excited and putting a smile on people's face, putting a smile on many people's faces, including mine. It's a very, very difficult time for everyone else. Obviously, this is not just me. This is for everybody. This is not just for football fans either. This is for everybody. It is so important that we take advantage of having football, but we don't take it for granted, because at any point, like we did see last season and like we saw last year, is that when it goes, it is like the world, for football fans, it's such a very, very strange and difficult time when there's not fans. When fans can't watch football, it's so difficult, and it is very, very frustrating, for the right reason though, I must say. But no, it's crazy. Like the entertainment and what this is doing for Rochdale United fans and just general football fans as well. It is just incredible, and it's not just because Rochdale United are winning. I understand a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, but that's just Rochdale United are winning, you know what I mean? But I just generally think that even if you're a Rochdale fan, for example, last night, watching that 4-3 game, there are points in that game. Maybe at the end of the game you're not too happy, but during that game, there's excitement, there's happiness, there's thrill, there's it's just pure excitement and jubilation about football. And that's what I mean, and that is that sort of what, at the moment, football fans and generally people and different things as well. I understand lots of people have different things, and different like sport and different excitement and all those sort of different things. It's not just football, but for football fans specifically, that is sort of what is keeping us going right now. Watching our team, watching football, even when it's not our team. When Oxford United have games postponed, I'm still watching the Premier League every single game that I can physically watch. The FA Cup, I'm watching every game. You know what I mean? Lots of different things. We are so just sort of we shouldn't take football for granted, but we definitely got to take advantage of watching football, because you just don't know how long things are going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's very, very uncertain times. But anyway, we spent 7 minutes talking about that sort of thing. I don't want to ramble too on, but hopefully you sort of understand where I'm getting from. In that sense, and it's really, really important. Of course, COVID and the health of people is 100% priority, but this is why we love football. This is why we support this game. This is why it's so important, and so we are so grateful, really, that we're still able to watch football. That's the main thing. And last night was just sort of the real point, the real sort of reason why I'm making that point. I probably would have made that point anyway, but specifically the person that DM'd me and told me that I should definitely mention that. And I'm not going to lie, I know it's easy for me to say now. I was generally thinking about mentioning it. I think it was important, but definitely having someone tell me that and someone sort of going out their way to tell me that I definitely should mention that is definitely a reason why I should mention that in this episode of the podcast. And I do thank you for you. You know who you are. You know who you are. I'll say your name, actually. Matthew, you know who you are. I appreciate it for letting me know that we should put this in the episode of the podcast. And no, it's fantastic, and it's incredible. So let's crack straight on with the match reaction. That's what you're here for. If you skipped to this point, then all right, fair enough. You have heard me just ramble on for 8 minutes if you haven't, but hopefully you understand what I'm coming from. But Oxford United are now in a groove. We're in the groove, people. We're absolutely just going into games, and we're doing whatever is physically possible to just go. we're going to win that game. We're going to win that game. We're going to win that game. There were so many different obstacles last night. There were so many different parts of that game where I thought, the first one being going 1-0 up. I thought we got a little bit complacent. I think we took our foot off the gas. I think that's the best way of putting it. And then I thought we were a little bit... I think we thought we were going to cruise it. I think we thought, we're 1-0 up. Do you reckon we're going to get 2 or 3 boys? I think we can sit back, relax, put the kettle on. We don't need to watch the next 5 minutes, put the kettle on or whatever, and I think we'll be fine and we'll cruise past this game 2 or 3-0, but it wasn't that. It just wasn't that easy, and I think we definitely should definitely mention how good Rochdale were. And I'm looking at the league table right now. They're 18th in the league table. They were 19th going into this game. Somehow they moved up a place. But with other results obviously going their way. They're not on great form. They're not in a great position in the league table. But what I would say is this is why statistics isn't always the best way of looking at a team, because Rochdale are where they are mainly, I'd say, because of, and this is only going off one game against Oxford, but I would say mainly because their defence is just a little bit shaky. But then I say that in a sense that not because the actual defenders are bad. Like, I'm looking at defenders last night, their centre-back, and I'm going to look exactly who it is. Their centre-back last night, their central defender last night, quality play. He looked very, 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 very good. I was extremely, extremely impressed by him. And they're not bad players. They're not bad defenders whatsoever. It's just because that they throw so many numbers, and they just... I mentioned someone talk about the numerical advantage in football, and it's like they are literally just throwing people forward. At one point they're leaving 2 players back, they're leaving 3 players back. It's so open. It's just that they play in a sense of their manager. And I was hearing some sort of on social media about Rochdale. It's like the manager will play this way, whether it gets results or not. We're going to stick to that way, and it works. No, it can work. It is sort of sometimes a little bit of an issue. It's got to be honest. It's not always the best way of playing the game. We're not playing the game. I think it's probably one of the most exciting ways of playing the game. But in terms of getting results, it's not always the most effective, because obviously when you do that, you will easily concede goals if you do play the sense of we're just going to attack, whatever the scoreline, whoever we're playing, we're just going to go at them. And that is, I think, probably why they're on the league table, because they're scoring goals. They've scored a lot of goals this season. I'm looking at goals scored this season, and they're really up there. I'm pretty sure they're the 6th. Yeah, they are the 6th highest team when it comes to scoring goals. But when they come to conceding goals, they're down very, very close to the bottom. And that is, you can see that. You only have to watch one game to see what Rochdale do. They throw men forward, they do score goals, but at the back, they're someone. I'm not going to lie, I didn't make this up myself, but I remember I'm a big fan of Mark Goldbridge. Not necessarily because he's, not for any other reason. I think he's a great character. I think he's a great what he does for the football football industry, but it's not really. It's sort of like the football entertainment media, sort of that sort of whole sense of YouTube sort of thing. I think what he does is incredible, and I think he's a great guy. He's a great personality. He made this up, and I think he said this about Ben Chilwell. I don't necessarily agree with it. I just think how he described it was pretty interesting and quite funny and very true, I'd say. Not necessarily Ben Chilwell, but I think for Rochdale, they're a little bit like, and he described it as a bit like an apron. Very good on the front. Very, very good on the front. Great look, a very, very nice looking apron. It's got flowers on it. It's got whatever you want on an apron. It doesn't have to be flowers. It can be many other things, but that's an example. But on the back, it's wide open. It's wide open at the back. There's never an apron where it's the same the whole way around, where it's fully covered the whole way around. It is always nicely dressed at the front, but on the back, it's wide open. Just one thing tying it together. And I think Rochdale is similar to that. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not saying anything bad about Rochdale. I think I would actually go out my way and watch Rochdale games, which is incredible to say, but I think I would, because the way that they play football is the most entertaining thing. Now, for fans, I guess it can be a little bit frustrating, but and going back to sort of the analogy that Mark Goldbridge made about the apron sort of thing, it's the sense of, yeah, they are great going forward, but at the back they are open. But I think, like I always say about football, is, does it come down to entertainment or does it come down to results? And I don't want to talk too much about Rochdale because it is an Oxford United match reaction for the game against Rochdale, so I guess we can talk about it a little bit. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting game. It made a very, very exciting game. It made a very, very open game. And if you're a neutral watching that watching that game, I think you'll be, I think that'll be one of the best games you've seen in a long time, because it was extremely good. It was very, very open. It was end to end, and I think going into this game, we'll talk about the team selection as well, and I'll sort of, this is a message to future Jack, editor Jack, in the future. Put the team on the screen right now. I'll put the team, the team that Carl picked, the starting team that he picked in today, and I'll bring it up on here right now so that I can sort of talk through it a little bit while it's on the screen, because obviously it's on the screen for you, but not for me. So I'm going to quickly find it right now. Here it is. So yeah, we went with a very, very different team to what we've sort of gone with, and I think Carl has been very, very open, and he has been open about it and sort of like talking about it when it comes down to I think the reason why we're doing much better and the reason why we're on a good run is because we are consistently picking a very, very similar team. We are consistently sort of going with the same team, and the players are sort of understanding each other because it's a very, very it's a very, very similar team. You know, he's gone with a 4-3-3. He goes with Gorin, Kelly, McGuane. Obviously, McGuane's injured, and we've got a bit more news on that as well. But in terms of that front, in terms of that midfield three, it's the same back line. He did pick the same back line again, and I think it is our strongest back line there is. And I think what is the big thing about that is we have now got a much stronger back line in terms of we're playing with a bit more confidence. We did just concede 3 goals, but I think generally our defence is extremely good. Obviously with Ruffles, Rob Atkinson, Moore and Sam Long, and obviously Jack Stevens behind them, who's in the form of his life at the moment. Not great yesterday, but he didn't really have much to do. I think all the goals he couldn't really do too much about. But before them, in the games prior to that, he's been incredible. And we have seen him just simply go with Gorin and then Kelly and McGuane in front of those two. Gorin is sort of the anchor man, defensive midfielder, sort of sweeping defensive midfielder. And then sort of Kelly with a bit of a free roam sort of thing. He can go where he wants, sort of pressing higher up the pitch, I'd say. And then McGuane sort of in between that, sort of a bit like a box-to-box, I'd sort of say, sort of all over the shop. But no, really, I mean that in a positive way. And all over the shop, he has no idea what he's doing. What he's doing is great, but he is all over the pitch. But we didn't do that yesterday. As you can see on the screen, I'll put it back on the screen right now, is we can see that we went with sort of 2 holding midfielders. So we went with Gorin on the right side. Is that right? Yeah, the right side, and then Jamie Hansen on the left side. Obviously, I'm guessing I didn't really see them interchange too much. I think they did stay in that position. I mean, Jamie Hansen did come off at half time, but in that first half, I don't think they interchanged. I'm pretty sure they stayed in that position, that sort of that left and right place that they started in. And it was a very interesting team selection because I was a little bit surprised about it. I'm not going to lie. I thought we'd go with the same team that beat Bristol. I thought we'd probably go with that front three of Shadipo, Henry, and Taylor, which obviously we did see in the end. Not in that sense. We saw those players in the end, and all of those players were huge in the reason why we won. I thought, excuse me, all those people were important in the win, but generally it wasn't that. That isn't how we started. But that front three, and then we saw obviously Brannigan make his first start, which was very, very good and extremely exciting. When I saw Brannigan on that team sheet, I was absolutely buzzing about it, really. When I speak a lot, it dries the mouth, so I've got a cup of tea here on this lovely Wednesday morning. Even more lovely, of course, when we get 3 points on a Tuesday. But getting back to it, we did obviously see Cameron Brannigan start again, which is very, very good, and very, very good to see. He did actually play 90 minutes, which is a little bit surprising. I thought he would get taken off a little bit, sort of easing him back into it, but Carl Robinson thought he had the ability and the power, not the ability, but the sort of he was able to play 90 minutes, which is great when Cameron Brannigan's on that pitch. It's just fantastic. It's just great. I love Cameron Brannigan. He didn't have the greatest game last night, but I thought he was just consistent. They gave him a 6.9 on here, but I'd give him a 7. I think he was just above average. I think he wasn't an incredible Cameron Brannigan performance, but what is an outstanding Cameron Brannigan performance? Because I think he's always consistent. He's always a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. He's a cracking player. Great player. So yeah, we're a little bit surprised sort of with the Hansen and Gorin sort of thing, because I thought 2 holding midfielders, what's he doing here? Is he sort of going here to sort of, I guess, sort of stop their sort of attacking threat? Obviously, if you do your homework, which I think we definitely did, they are very, very clear that they come at you. They just go at you, sort of all guns blazing. So we do need a little bit more defensive stability in there. So we could have played Kelly instead of Jamie Hansen, but Jamie Hansen's a little bit more defensive in my opinion. He's a more defensive player, sort of that defensive. He's definitely got more defensive attributes about him than Liam Kelly has. So going with Gorin and Jamie Hansen sort of did suggest that he was sitting back a little bit, not necessarily sitting back on the pitch, but he was playing a defence, sort of a defensive side of the team. And he had 2 players protecting that defence because he knew that Rochdale were going to come at him and pose a lot of attacking threat. and then obviously Cameron Brannigan in front of them in that number 10 role, that did get moved in the second half, which I'm glad about, because I don't like Cameron Brannigan in that number 10 role. You know, I love Cameron Brannigan, but in that number 10 role, he's just not as effective in my opinion. I think he's much, much better when he's a little bit more, when he's a little bit deeper, in my opinion, that is anyway. But that front three of Daniel Allen and Jordan Obita, who started as well, and Matty Taylor. I did obviously, if you do follow the Instagram page, I did sort of say at half time that on the stat on the stat website that I use, Jordan Obita was playing, I think it was a 7.3 at half time, which was the second highest player than Dan Adjei was at half time. Dan Adjei was having a 7.4 because he scored a great goal. You know, we went 1-0 up after about 12 minutes, and it was a great strike from Daniel Adjei. And he had the highest score at half time, and then Jordan Obita was second half time. Now, I'm sort of regularly criticised a little bit about how I sort of a little bit harsh and a little bit critical on Jordan Obita. And I don't. I understand I am a little bit, but I also think to that sense is I'm not criticising him as a person, I'm not criticising him as a man. I'm sure he's an absolutely lovely bloke. But as a footballer, obviously, when I'm sort of doing when I got a podcast about football, part of it is that I'm going to sort of say what I like about the performance, what I don't like about our performance. I think the players that stood out and the players that I don't think were as good. I'm never going to say anything personal about him. I'm never going to be horrible and attack him as a person. I'd never do that. It's more about what I would say about him on the football pitch. And there has been games this season, I'll say this 100%. There's been points this season where I think Jordan Obita has been very, very good. That goal he scored a few weeks ago was a very, very good goal, a very, very important goal, and a really nice finish. And I thought, he has been good. You know, he's been good in specific games and in a few games that he's played this season. I just don't think he is at the moment sort of if I'm picking my front three, for example, Jordan Obita doesn't get in that front three, and I also say, and that isn't because I don't rate him. I think, to be honest with you, I can sort of see a bit more of a left back in him than I can see as a winger, because I think as a left back, I can sort of see him as quite high. I think he'd definitely do some aerial threat. And I'm not saying take Josh Ruffels out the team, 100%. I think he's definitely a backup left back. I just going up the pitch, I don't know. I'm not too sure about him. I don't really know what he did last night to give him a 7.3 final score. You know, he got a higher score than Rob Atkinson. Is that warranted? Maybe. He got a better score than Sam Long. I think that is best. I don't think it was Sam Long's best game, but I'm not going to criticise him too much because I think he was okay. It wasn't his best game, but he's been fantastic so far this season. I'm not going to be too critical on that. He got a better score than Goran. He got a better score than Brannigan. A better score than Matty Taylor. Nearly as good a score of Daniel Adjei. I'm looking at that and I'm comparing that and I'm thinking there is no way that Matty Taylor is getting a 7.2 and Jordan's getting a 7.3. And I know it's based on stats and I know this isn't sort of, I don't want to get too much into it, but I'm looking at that and I'm thinking as someone that's watching a game, it's very, very important to see what happens. So on here, he's probably got a 7.3 because he's got a great pass accuracy because he's got so many successful dribbles. But if you're doing two dribbles that are very, very basic, not basic, that's a bit harsh, but very, very, not even simple, but very, very sort of the dribbles that you should be doing at a player that you are, and you're getting 100% pass accuracy, your score's going right up, you know what I mean? But if you're avoiding to dribble, because I think at sometimes, what I want Jordan Obita to do is just run at them. Sometimes you just got to run at them, and I understand it's not always the best thing to do. I'll have people come over and say, yeah, but if you're a winger, you got to sometimes pass it. And I understand that, and I understand passing it, and maybe even swinging a crossing is the most is an aspect of the game where it can be extremely effective. And you have got to then come down to decisions. Is it best to run at them? Is it best to pass? Is it best to swing a ball into the box and you know, put a cross in? And I get that, but what I'd also say is, I just think. Well, I don't know. For Jordan Obita, I think Jordan Obita would be a very, very effective player. I think if he just simply, and it's not even down to his ability, I think he's definitely got the ability. It's just about, can Jordan Obita run at a man? Can he beat a man? Because he'll beat a man when he's in the sort of the halfway line point where it's not really affecting the game too much. But when he's sort of up the pitch, when you're like, right, if you beat that man and you swing a crossing, you beat that man and you cut and have a shot, this could be a goal here, Jordan. He doesn't really do it. We don't really see it too much, and it's a great win. And I don't want to get too much into it, and I don't want to Jordan Obita too much. But I'm not really criticising him, and I'm not really criticising his footballing ability really. Because I'm just saying, like, if he ran at him a little bit more, and if he sort of maybe sort of beat his man a few times, and had the confidence and had the sort of yeah, I guess confidence to beat his man and beat the fullback or beat whoever he's got to do to get in the position where he can potentially have a shot or even have a better opportunity to put the ball into the box. I think his game would be increased so much. I think he would be more effective than someone like Shodipo at times, because I think Shodipo is a little bit the opposite. I don't see Shodipo too many times. He does put a ball into the box every now and again, but he does tend to beat his man more often than not, or go to beat his man more often than not, should I say. And there isn't, and it's good to sort of have that sort of player that you know will do that and a player that can do that. But if you're going to player that can sort of do, and I know you can't have the perfect player, but if you can have a player that I think if Jordan Obita's got a great ball into the box, he can swing a ball into the box better than I think many players in this team can. I'd actually say he's probably the best player when it comes to putting a cross into the box. Not always, but I think generally, I think he can. When he puts a good ball in, it's an extremely good ball in. There's a few times yesterday where I was a little bit frustrated with some of the quality of balls he put in, but generally, when the ball's right, he can put the best ball in. What he's got to do though is can he beat his man and then put an even better ball in? Because he's then, because it's very difficult if you're not going to beat your man and you've got a defender in front of them to swing a ball outside the defender that's attempting to block the shot and get it into the box. If you can beat your man, I know it's easy to say me sat down talking about it, but as a fan and as a podcast, as sort of someone that's got a podcast about football, I like to talk about it, but. Can you sort of beat your man and then put a ball in the box? And you haven't got to worry about it being blocked by the fullback if you can beat him. I know you can't beat him all the time, but it's just something to, it's a possibility. But yeah, I think Jordan Obita, I don't think he had a bad game. I don't think he had a great game. I thought he had an average game. But I think he's got that ability where I think he can be like, I think he can be fantastic. I think, not maybe fantastic a bit too far. I think he can be very good if there's just different parts of his game that he did. Can he beat his man? Whatever. But I feel like I've just said beat his man a lot. And I have. But it's something to think about with Jordan Obita. It does intrigue me a little bit. But yeah, we sort of did go with we did go with a different team selection. Of course, Jordan did come in for Mide on that left hand side. Daniel Adji came in for James Henry. Carl Robinson's reasoning for that was it's a bigger pitch, which it was, and he's sort of someone with a quick top speed. Normally a top speed is quick, but a top speed that can run at players and's got room to run into the big areas of the pitch. Can be very effective. And I think it did work. I think you've got to be honest with Carl Robinson and say, yeah, mate, I think it very much did work. I think it was a really good tactical decision, and I think it paid off. I think it really did pay off. I thought Dan Adji was fantastic today. You saw yesterday, and I think Jordan Obita. It was a game where I thought if you're going to talk about that, I think if you're looking at players with top speed, I think this would have been a game for Mide to start. I do also think, saying that though, he does sort of die out of games a little bit, and I think off the bench he's very good. Off the bench, he causes problems to defenders. He scored the winning goal, which is just incredible. Him on Tuesday nights, we'll come on to that in a minute. He's just absolutely incredible. But yeah, in terms of Jordan Obita and Daniel Adji as the wingers, you could see on that right side Daniel Adji probably did do a little bit better because he did have that real pace and he could just drive at players and he could just run and he's a very strong player as well, so he can just shrug players off and just go. Which I think was a really good tactical decision by Robinson. You have to sort of take your hat off to that. I think that was good. Do I think that playing Jamie Hansen, Alex Gorin as sort of the holding midfielders, that tactical decision, did that make much of a difference? If I'm being honest, I don't really think it did. To be honest, I can understand why he did it. I don't think it really I don't think it did not work. I just don't think it affected the game as much as I thought. I think Carl probably thought it would have done, and I think we did when we saw that team. Because as soon as we saw that team of Jamie Hansen and Alex Gorin together, I think we thought, yeah, he probably is going to protect that team and protect that defence much better with two holding midfielders, because we know that this Rochdale team can pose a lot of attacking threat. So we understand why he did that decision, and it was a good tactical thought, but realistically, because Rochdale are so gung-ho, especially at the left and on the right, especially down the flanks, it didn't really work too much. And I think they did I think Rochdale probably did, well, they went 2-1 up at half-time. I think they probably did win the midfield battle in that first half. And obviously when you lose that midfield battle, you are normally losing the game. So, yeah, I think it didn't work as effectively as I thought it could have done. I think Carl Robinson maybe thought it could have done. Maybe I'm a bit too harsh there, but yeah, I thought that it worked, but not as well as I think it maybe could have done. And yeah, it worked okay, and he came off at half time. I know Jamie Hansen's had a few injuries, and he does sort of always have a few injuries. He is sort of struggling with injuries, sort of really since he came to Oxford. Yeah, he did come off at half time for James Henry, and that man I thought changed the game. I thought James Henry changed the game, and he was just incredible last night. And when we're looking at the game as well, because we will look at the game, I thought I thought the way that we played was fantastic. I thought we did sort of play into their hands a little bit at times, but I think at the other side of things, I think we just sort of were like, right, you're going to go for it, we're going to go for it. You're going to attack us, we're just going to go attack you even better. You know, is there such thing as a better attack? 100%. I think, of course, there is. But you know, they're going to put it. That we know that their strengths. We know what their strengths are, and you know, we definitely did a good job of that. I was extremely impressed with it. In terms of goals, because we will come on to the goals, why not? But so we went 1-0 up. Daniel Adji, it was from a corner, wasn't it? It was from a corner, but it sort of was it from a corner? It sort of came in. I remember it coming in from the left hand side. It came in. It was he beat his man. He sent one Rochdale player to the shops. He found the room to shoot. It's a great finish into the bottom right hand corner. And we went 1-0 up, and that is I thought when we took our foot off the gas a little bit. Then obviously they equalised through a. From a ball where they did sort of, he literally had a lot of time in that midfield. The ball came over, he took it down very, very well. He sprung it out to the left. Sam Long did, I think, get sucked in a little bit too far into the defenders, and then he had room to shoot into that bottom right hand corner. I would also say to that is I don't think Jack Stevens' positioning was as good as it maybe could have been, but I think that was being a bit too harsh. It was a great goal in the end. It was a good finish, but it could have been avoided, unfortunately, which is a little bit frustrating. But you know, it's 1-1. We then conceded from a set piece, which is very, very disappointing. Conceding from a set piece is always one of the most horrible ways to concede because, you know, they should be preventable. And, you know, it wasn't great. He sort of flicked it into the back. And it did sort of come in from the left-hand side. From the left-hand side corner. It came in and it was, a little bit frustrating. And set pieces always were very, very difficult to sometimes defend, but also a little bit frustrating to sort of concede. But, no, we couldn't do too much about it other than defend it better, I guess. But, yeah, a little bit annoying, but what can you do? We go 2-1 down at half-time. It is a bit of a mountain to climb, to be honest with you. And I did have my doubts. But, you know, in the end, it was good. So, 2-2. And the goal came from... there's so many goals. I've got to remember exactly how this all went. So, at 2-2, it was... oh, my God, this is awful. This is awful, boys. I've got to remember exactly what the goal was. There's 7 goals to think about here, boys. There's 7 goals. It was... Elliot Moore. It was Elliot Moore. It was a free kick. It was a free kick from sort of like halfway between the halfway line and the goal. A good ball in, really, really good ball in, and a great header from Elliot Moore. A really good goal. 2-2, back in the game. And at that point, we know that we've got to attack them. We can't take a point here. We just got to go at them. And then an absolute thunder strike from James Emery. It got to be a contender for goal of the season. Absolutely incredible goal. Absolutely smashed it into the roof of the net. Absolutely incredible. Just an incredible goal. Just James Emery doing James Emery things. And you know, he changed the game since he came on. He changed the game. He came on at half time, and he just was a man to embrace an incredible performance. He was just absolutely fantastic. And then we pretty much concede about 60 seconds later, which is very, very annoying. You do all that, you see a great goal, you get all excited, and we concede straight away. It's so disappointing. It's so annoying. It's a cross. It is actually from Josh Ruffles' side, this side, but it comes into the box. I don't really know what's going on in the box, to be honest with you. Players losing their markers, being one, I can definitely guarantee. It wasn't great. It was a very, very frustrating to concede, especially after 60 seconds of just scoring a goal. It's not great. I do say, though, you are most vulnerable to concede a goal when you just score one, because you are obviously a little bit... You're not concentrating, you're not fully concentrating. You could see that. It was annoying. But then, in the 90+3, the man that loves Tuesday night games, he just scores on Tuesday night games. He just wins us games on Tuesday nights. The man that is Mide Shodipo. And I got to say, this goal, again, is just sublime. The composure on this man, he could perform, again, this is a Mark Goldbridge, he could perform art surgery on a heartless ant. This man just... It wasn't a great goal kick from the goalkeeper, the Rochdale goalkeeper, Bazuma, I think it is, isn't it? From on loan from Manchester City. Is that right? Yeah, Bazuna. It wasn't a great pass. It went straight to Jordan Obita, to Shodipo, who came on for Jordan. Really good composure to see it out, and he dinked it. Not even dinked it. He sort of just lobbed the goalkeeper so far out into the back of the net. And when that went, I got to tell you, this is why the voice is like this. It's sort of growing back a little bit, but this is why it's a little bit croakier. It's because this man has just sent Oxford United into, and I've got to be honest, I'd say into a playoff race. I think we are now. We are in a position where we are in the playoff race. We're in a position now where we can go for it. We're currently 11th in the league table with 34 points. However, Charlton, who have got 40 points, who are sixth in the playoffs, have played 25 games. We've only played 22 games. Okay, we've only played 22 games. We've got 3 games in hand on the team in the playoffs, and we are only 6 points away from them. 6 points away from them. Excuse me. If we win these next few games, we are in for a real shout, because we've got some games coming up where, we've got to be at our best. We've got to win these next few games. We've got Fleetwood on Saturday, which is, again, our bogey team. A lot of people say, we don't beat Fleetwood. If there's a time to beat Fleetwood, it's now. They're in awful form. I don't know if they've appointed a manager since Joey Barton left. I'm sort of looking at this and going, I don't think they have. They might have done. I apologise if they have. But no, they're in awful form. They've slipped down the league table quite a lot. They're not looking great. We've got to beat them on Saturday. We have to beat them on Saturday. And if we do win on Saturday, we're going to be really in for a shout for playoffs. We have to be. We have to be in for a shout in playoffs. We're in a great position. And also, I'm looking at the other part of this league table as well. You're looking at Portsmouth. You're looking at Doncaster. These teams are only on 42 points and 41 points. So we win these next few games, boys. Who knows what can happen? Who knows, and ladies, of course, who knows what could happen? Like, I don't know. This is a very open game, a very interesting game, and one that I just don't know what could happen. A very interesting season, should I say? Sorry. I just don't know what's going to happen. It's just a mind-blowing season, but anyway, it's been quite a long episode of the podcast today. It's a match reaction for Oxford United's 4-3 thriller, 7-goal thriller against Rochdale in League One. I've also, like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I've got a very exciting new episode of the podcast coming out, which is statistically looking at every single team in League One, looking at their best players, looking at some maybe their worst players, not too much of that, but looking at the best players in each position, looking at who is performing the best in League One, looking at the best player in League One based on stats so far this season. A very interesting episode of the podcast, where a lot of interesting things come out of it. So I hope you'll be looking forward to that. It's obviously, if you're not an Oxford United fan, maybe you're a Rochdale fan, or maybe you're a fan of any club. It's a very interesting episode of the podcast, because I'm going to be looking at every single club. So yeah, very interesting to see that. And I'm really looking forward to filming it, and very looking forward to getting out there to you people. All the research is being done as we speak. Not as we speak, obviously, but prior to this. But no, a great episode of the podcast. Hopefully it was. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new, like I said. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments as well. That'd be much appreciated. I'll be replying to all of those. And yeah, it's good to be back. Sort of not doing a live one. I do love the live stuff, by the way. And if you're missing out if you don't watch the live stuff. But I thought this one, I do want to sort of film it in the morning sort of thing, and it's probably what we'll do on Tuesdays. I do want to sort of film it sort of in the morning. It is sort of Wednesday morning now. I think it's probably better if we sort of film it now and then obviously get out. Hopefully sort of it will be out sort of Wednesday evening, Wednesday afternoon sort of thing. So hopefully you enjoy this episode of the podcast. I'll see you later. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in a bit, people. I'll see you later.